talk about something I see friction in the sales process constantly when trying to add new CX programs. A lot of times folks run up against tight budgets, and it's just a hurdle that people can't overcome as they try to either add a CX program or enhance what's already there. How can a bank use a CX program as a revenue generator rather than just being viewed as strictly a cost center?
So that's a really good question. A lot of banks struggle with the fact that they consider their customer experience program to be a cost center, as in something that can get cut when budgets are tight, and it's just something that the bank spends on or can choose not to spend on. But I love the fact you're referring to it as a revenue generator, because a good customer experience program really can be a good revenue generator for the bank. It can completely change the dialogue around the program. So I have an example. I had a client that was a $35 billion community bank. And there was a merger in the market of two competitors. And they wanted to figure out if there was an opportunity for them. So what they did is they took some of the general market information that they collected to figure out what did the customers of those two merged banks think of the new merged bank, and what did they think of the client. And it turns out that it was a bigger bank buying a smaller bank. And that smaller bank, the customers there hated the big bank. From a customer perspective, it was a terrible merger. They had a really low opinion of the new bank, the new overlords. And so they were going to be leaving in droves. It was the worst bank possible to buy them. Oops. Obviously, they didn't do their market research beforehand. Whereas the client that I worked with said, okay, well, what did they think of me? Well, they happened to have quite a good opinion of that particular bank. So what that particular bank did is they spent a huge amount of money marketing in the area where this merger was happening to say, hey, if you're not happy with the new big bank, why don't you move to us? And they captured significant market share, I think like 26% market share within a couple of years. And this was in a very competitive, very affluent market. So they were able to take market research and turn it into dollars right away. Another example about how you can make your customer experience program a revenue generator was working with a bank, super regional bank. And they had just spent a lot of money redeveloping a lot of their technology. They did everything. They didn't do a core conversion, but they did just about everything else and spent, I think, upwards to $100 million in terms of redeveloping a lot of their managed services, their digital services, et cetera. And they're very proud of that. And they were about to launch an ad campaign to say, hey, we've got this great new technology. You should come to our bank. Luckily, right before they were about to launch that ad campaign, they saw the local data, the local competitive data, to see, what did people think of them? Why were people switching banks, et cetera? And it turned out that in their market, the digital services were not driving switching at all. As a matter of fact, it was the seventh leading reason people were switching banks. Obviously customer service tends to be number one, number two, but very few people in their market were switching banks because they were upset or frustrated with their technology, which was just in time. Because as I said, they were about to launch a $35 million ad campaign, and that ad campaign would have been a complete waste of time because they would have said, hey, come to us because we've got great technology. Whereas everybody else would have said, I've already got good technology. That's not why I'm switching bank. And they would have ignored that ad campaign. So there's another example about how a customer experience program and market research, that led to a $35 million windfall, or they didn't waste that money just based on the research. So there's another example.